Hi everyone, welcome to another episode. In today's episode, we'll take a look at subqueries. And subqueries are just what they sound to be. So basically, there will be two queries and the one will be executed first and it will provide the results to be used by the second, so the other query. I think it's best to take a look at it on an example. So before we create an example, let's select everything from our people table. People. Let's run it. And now let's try to select everyone whose favorite color is green. So let's say where favorite color equals green. And let's run it. Here we have the results. And you can see that currently here we have some IDs. And basically, so what we can do is we can select only the IDs of these rows. So we have only IDs. And now a result set like this can be used by us as a list that we will use in another query. So basically, what we can now do is we can just say select star from people where ID, and now we say in, and now we open the parenthesis, we go after this query, but before the semicolon, we close the parenthesis, and now what I like to do is I like to indent this part so that you can clearly see that it's like inside. And now what this will do, it will select everything from the people where the ID is in this result set. So in our case, we'll select rows with ID 1, 5, and 6. Let's run it. And we can see that we have rows with results 1, 5, and 6. Now in this case, it doesn't really help us, or it's not very useful because it returns the exact same results as our first query, right? So essentially we select everyone whose favorite color is color green. So it's exactly the same as the one on top. So let's try to make maybe a little bit smarter of an example. So instead of here using the people table, let's try to use our countries table. Let's run it. And here we say we can see the countries, and let's, for example, select from the countries every country where the currency is dollar. So let's say where currency equals, or let's say euro, because we have two. Okay, we have two countries where the currency is euro, but we don't want all the columns here. We just want to have the name of the country. And now we have selected the name of the country where the currency is euro. And now what we can do is, in the same way we did it before, we can select everyone. So let's now say that we want to select everyone who lives in a country where the currency is euro. So what we can do, we already have a list of values here, so our result set with Germany and France, and now we can use it to select all the rows from the people table. So basically we say select star from people where, and here we have the country, where country in, and once again we use the in operator, and we indent it here, we run it, and we get the results. So here we have Germany, Germany, Germany. We can go back, we can select everything from here. So here we have Germany and France, but I think we have nobody who lives in France. Let's check that. Select star from people where country equals France. Oops. I think we need to finish all the statements with a semicolon, and now it will work. And this is true. We get no one. Okay, so basically what you can also see is, I will paste it here. The in operator we have already seen, but we have seen the in operator in a different type of use. So we did not see it with a subquery, but we saw it with a list of values. And this works exactly the same. So here is, if you remember, only this part returns us Germany and France. So let's here put Germany and France And this query will return us the exact same result as this one at the top. But this one at the top has the advantage of being dynamic. So basically, here what we can see is that if the contents of the countries table changes, we will get different results. Here it's static. So if it changed, we would need to go in here and add a third country potentially, if we had a third country where the currency is euro. So now you might be wondering, okay, but we have also seen something like this, because, I'll remove this, we also took a look at joins, if you remember. So what we had is, I select everything from people, and then I do an inner join with countries on, and now I need to once again use the aliases. So I say p.country, country is equal to c.name. And now I do where c.currency. Once again, the C is not necessary because the currency is in only one column. However, makes sense to add it, euro. And I run it, and we see the exact same results as we see here, but here we have, now we'll see the exact same results. So basically, this is the same thing, works exactly the same, and just you can use whatever is more convenient for you. It will have some performance implications. Sometimes this at the top might be a little bit quicker. Sometimes this at the bottom may be a little bit quicker. Just test and use what's better for you. So here on the top, we have this advantage that we do not really have the problem of aliases, so you don't have to use it if that's a problem for you. But here on the bottom, this is just a different way that we can write this query. The only consideration might be if you wanted here to select, so p.star, and then, for example, for some reason also c.star. So basically a star, just a star, so an asterisk. So you wanted to select the columns from one table and from the other table. So here we have no way to do so, right? Even if I give an alias here, which I even can't do because Oracle already shows me that this is an error, I cannot access other columns from this table. So if in my results set, I wanted to display the currency, I have to use the version at the bottom, right? So basically, if you want to join some tables and then display some columns, you essentially should use a join and not these type of subquery syntax. Okay, so let's maybe try to do something more creative with the subqueries. What's often asked, and I've seen this as an interview question actually quite many times, is please select something that is second to largest. So it's not the largest, but it's the second one. Let's take a look at our people table. There we have, for example, cost of living, so cost living column. Let's for now select the cost living, or the second largest cost living. Because we don't have currently that many rows, we can clearly see that it is the 10,000 that we have here, because the largest is 11,000 and we have the 10,000 here. However, if we had many more rows, we would not be able so easily to tell that, I would say, manually. Therefore, we would need to use, and one of the possible ways to solve this is to use the subqueries. So what we do first is we select everything from people. We basically select the max cost of living. So we select and then max. We have already talked about max cost living from people. And this gives us the maximum cost of living. This is 11,000. And now what we want to do is we want to select the maximum cost of living from people table, where cost of living not in, so basically not in is the opposite to in, right? So if you use in, it will only return a row if a value of the column that we have here is in the results set of this subquery. But if you say not in, it will only return it if it's not here. So basically, once again, we open the parentheses here, we close it right here. we indent this part and we run it. And we can see the 10,000, which we know is the correct result. So once again, just so that you understand it better, this subquery, if you mark it and run, it will run only it, returns us 11,000. The whole subquery, if we just remove the maxed cost of living and we place an asterisk, returns us every row, but without the 11,000. So the row where the cost of living is 11,000, so where the row is max. Therefore here we have 9 rows. And now from this in this query, if we just say max cost of living, we will get a maximum number out of this column. And this is how it works. I think a common question now would be okay, but please return to me the people that have these cost of living, with an emphasis on people, so that if one then more person has the 10,000 cost of living, it should be returned. So let's say we want to return their name and surname. One of the ways you can answer this, if you have to return the name and a surname also, is using the second type of subqueries that we have. I'll for now put it to the bottom. And once again, we'll come back to our people query. So we select everything from people. But here, let's say that we want to select name and we want to select, I don't know, cost of living times 2, because why not? And let's give it double cost living. So now we have the name and the double cost of living. Okay, so what we can do now is, let's say that out of this result set, we want to select something. So you already have, we run this query, doesn't really matter what it does, but out of this query, we want to select something. So let's say we want to select every row where the double cost of living is higher than 10,000. So what you can do, of course, is we could just write this query as select name, cost of living, or we can actually select everything from people where cost of living times 2 is higher than 10,000. Right? This returns us some results. We can see that here in all the cases, cost of living times 2 is higher than 10,000. But we can also do that in a different way. So in this way may seem more difficult, and probably you would never write, so you would always write it this way and not the way we are just about to do so, but it's just to present you the second use case of subqueries. And the second use case of subqueries is you can do a select, let's say here for now star, from, now we open the parenthesis and you close the parenthesis afterwards, and you treat this result set just as a table. You run this, and for now we have the same thing, but here we can also add a where clause. So where, and now we use the alias that we have here. So basically where double cost living is higher than 10,000. And this may seem, of course, more complex. Let's just verify that if we just say name and then cost living times 2, we get the same exact result set here and here. So basically you would always choose this way. It's shorter, simpler. However, here it was just to present you the second use of subqueries. So basically we can treat a result set just as we would any other table. You can give it an alias here. You can select here sq.name. So then we selected only the name. And you can also create a join, right? So you can also, if we, for example, wanted to here select the for example, country, here, okay, let's go back to the alias. Here we could say left join countries countries on, and now we say here, give an alias C, here sq.country equals c.name, right? And we can select, for example, the here c.currency. And we run it, we get an error. And this error is because if you want to do that proper, here we need to also select the country. so that this query, if I mark it and run it, returns us also the country. And then we'll be able to use this country to set it equal to the name from the countries table. And here, instead of returning the name twice, which doesn't really make sense, let's return also the country. Let's now run it, and we get the results. So we get all the people, and now we don't see their double cost of living. Double cost living. Let's also return it. Now we can see that it's higher than 10,000 in all the cases that we have here. So let's go back to our example. Let's remove this. Let's remove also this. Let's go back to our example. So what we have here is we have the maximum, the second largest cost of living, but we have the value only. And what we want to have is we want to have also the people. So the name and the surname of people who have the second largest cost of living. So we will select star, or not star, name, surname, and cost of living from people where cost of living in, and now we once again open the parentheses. Here we close the parentheses and we run it. And now we can see that the second largest cost of living is Miss Jenna Carson, whose cost of living is 10,000. Because we don't have that many results, we can very quickly verify that. And we can see that indeed here we have Miss Jenna Carson with cost of living 10,000. Now there are some better, smarter, probably ways of answering this question, because now let's imagine that someone wanted the third to largest, so basically not the second but the third largest cost of living. We would need to run at one more query and then one more query and then one more query and then one more query. So there are maybe some better ways to do that, but this is one of the ways you can do that, and this is 100% valid. So let's recap what we have learned. I will remove actually everything, and let's do maybe one more example of each of the uses that we currently learned. So let's say that we want to select people from all the countries except the countries where there is at least one person whose surname is Carson. So let's think how we would do that normally. So before today's episode. So we would need to write select star from people where, and now what, country is different than what? So here we can manually see, right? Carson, so we would write Germany and USA. But let's imagine that we have hundreds or even hundreds of millions of rows, and it's not possible for you to go manually and check that. And this is not really feasible for us at the current point in time, right? Because we want to select everyone where the country is different than Germany or USA, but we cannot really say Germany and USA because we can only say it here because we don't have that many rows. So we need to do that also dynamically. So perhaps in the future you have a third Carson who comes from Poland, and then what? Then you need to change and adjust it. So basically, with the current subqueries, we can fix the problem because we can just say, okay, first we select everyone from people where surname is Carson. So now we have everyone basically, and what's more important, we have all the people whose surname is Carson, but we also have the countries, and let's select the country here only. Oops, I can't spell country. And what we can do now is we can just select everyone from, or every column by an asterisk, from people where country not in, and we open a parenthesis, we close parenthesis, we bring it nicely together, we indent and we run it. And we have everyone from Poland, Denmark and Switzerland. Let's go back to our, let's put it in line. Let's go back to our people table. Here we can see that basically this is what we wanted. We did not want to have anyone from Germany or from the USA. And this for us would not be possible without the use of subqueries. So here, once again, first this query is executed, a list of results is returned, and then this outer query is executed, and basically we use the result set that it generates to filter the rows from the people table. So this is the first use of subqueries. Let's remove that. And we also had a second use of subqueries, which allowed us to use the results set as basically sort of a table in a second query, right? So if we said select star from people, so here we have a result set basically. And now let's maybe make it a little bit more complex. Let's left join countries table. This we have done many times. So here we have an alias P. Here we have an alias C on P dot. Now we know it very well. P dot name equals C dot. So it turns out we don't know it that well. P dot country equals C dot name. So now we selected everything. Let's not select everything. Let's select just name and then surname and then let's say the currency. Or let's maybe use the currency a lot. Let's use the area in kilometers squared. And now we have it here. And now let's say that we wanted to, out of this output, we just wanted to, I don't know, format it a little bit more or a little bit better. So here we could say just select name as first name, and maybe what's important here for you, right? So if you here add an alias, let's say first name, here you will refer to this column no longer but by the p.name, but as first name. So we'll say first name and then surname, and you can also add an alias here, right? So we'll say surname as last name, and then the area kilometers squared. I don't know, maybe you want to divide it by 1000 for some reason. And then you open parentheses. Oh, sorry, you say from, you open a parenthesis, you go here, you close the parenthesis, you indent it, and you run it, and you get the result set, right? So here we have the first name. So if we actually set name, we would get an error here, right? Because the column here, after this is executed, there is no longer a name column. This column is renamed to the first name. So we need to say first name, but first name, right? So this is right. And here we have see the division. Here we have the decimals. We'll take a look at the decimals where we will take we're looking at data types. So this is the second use of subqueries. It allows us to first create a result set and then do something with it, right? So here, no problem. We can join once again. We can filter these rows out, basically whatever you want to do. A small bonus for you. So in episode 3, I have said that when we were selecting, we wanted to select all the countries where the average years of experience for a person is higher than 6. And back then we were using the having clause, right? So basically a filtering that is applied after the aggregate functions and the group by is applied. And then I said that a similar result can be achieved using a subquery. So I will once again write the query just as we had it back then. So basically what we had is we had select country, an average years experience from people, and then we group by country, and then we were having average years experience higher than 6. And then we run it, and we have Germany, Poland, and Denmark. So basically, back then we had, I think, we did not have Denmark because we did not have that much test data, but then there I said that a similar result can be applied or can be achieved using subqueries. Because if you remember, what's happening here is that first, this is selected from the people table, the group by is applied, and then the average years of experience for every country is calculated. And then only after that, the having is applied. So if I remove this part, we'll get more, right? So we'll also get the USA here and Switzerland, whereas currently we get only Germany, Poland, and Denmark. And there I said a similar thing can be achieved with subqueries. And it's because how exactly this is executed. So I'll now copy this part and I will just run it. So here we have everything. And now if we just do select, here we can say star from, and then we open the parenthesis here and close the parenthesis here and just indent it. And now here we say where and makes sense to use an alias. So let's say average years experience. So basically where average years of experience is higher than 6, we achieve the exact same thing. And this is up to you, which one you want to choose. You either can write it like this, or you can write it like this. Both yield or return the same results. Okay, this is the topic of subqueries. Now I would highly encourage you to write some subqueries on your own. Just come up with something crazy. Like maybe let's select the third largest person with cost of living. Or let's maybe not go in cost of living. Let's select the third largest or the third highest number of years of experience, if you want. Or you can just create some like weird queries that we had, that let's select everyone or every country or every person from every country where the country does not have a person named Carson or something like this, right? So this is what we did. You can come up with this on your own. Just to practice this a little bit, it's really straightforward once you just write some subqueries on your own. And this is it in today's episode. I would like to thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.